We dedicate this video to the loving memory of our cherished friend Sonja Martin. Mrs. Martin, as she was known at Bronx Science, spoke many of the languages taught there and some that were not. Where she tread, she brought sunshine, laughter, grace, and wisdom. She will remain in our hearts and minds. The dish we're going to make today, Tortelli di Zucca, is a favorite in our house, and Sonja loved it too. She was, of course, so adventurous that she would try anything and laugh with her infectious laugh, which we all loved. So tortelli di zucca are like ravioli. It's a filled pasta, and it's filled with a pumpkin filling, pumpkin or squash filling. And so at this time of the year, when we are surrounded by wonderful pumpkins and squashes, we thought it would be an appropriate new recipe for many of you. Francesca also tells me that people at this time of the year are obsessed with pumpkins. Well, we happen to love pumpkins, so here we are. We're going to make tortelli di zucca. So our main ingredient for the filling is a butternut squash, and here's a lovely butternut squash. This one has been baked, and that will be the base of the filling, together with Parmesan cheese that's been freshly grated, mostarda, which is not mustard, it is a preserved fruit that is used as an accompaniment to meats very often. So we're going to put this in the filling. And the other thing that goes into the filling is Amaretti. These are Amaretti. They smell just wonderful. You can have them with a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. They are delicious. They're almond, very crunchy cookies. And each one is individually wrapped, and each package has 2 of these. Okay, so we're going to use 8 of them. Sonja, after we ate the Amaretti, entertained our daughter by taking these very, very thin tissue covers that are typical and traditional for Amaretti. She folded it a certain way, lit it with a match, and the thing would fly to the ceiling. But it was very entertaining. The pumpkin tortelli, the squash tortelli, are not a dessert. They are a main dish, but they have a kind of, it's not very sweet, but of course it's got Amaretti, which are sweet, and it's served with just a plain butter sauce. The first thing we're going to do is to make the dough. We begin with 1.5 cups flour, we make a well, we add the 2 eggs, a tablespoonful of olive oil, beat the eggs, and start incorporating flour into the eggs. Use a fork to incorporate as much of the egg as possible into the flour. Once the dough becomes manageable, then use your hands and begin to work the flour into the dough. Add the water 1 tablespoon at a time, because anything more than that can give you a soggy, wet dough. You don't want that. How large the eggs are. Okay, transfer it. I floured my board and I'm incorporating it into the dough. Knead it until it feels smooth and elastic. We're going to put a drop of olive oil just to keep it from forming a crust. Literally a drop. Cover the dough with a bowl and let it rest at least 30 minutes, but up to an hour. While the dough is resting, we're going to make the filling. This is a butternut squash, which was cut in half and placed on a baking sheet upside down. This was baked in a preheated 375-degree oven. That's 190 degrees Celsius. And now it's cooled. So first I take the seeds out, These we give to the birds. They love them. Right? Now we're going to scrape the pulp from the skin and place it in a bowl. No waste. Don't leave any behind. This is all delicious. Okay, we're going to mash it. If you see any seeds, of course, take them out. We're going to add a pinch of salt, very little, just a pinch. We're going to add nutmeg. Okay, so now we're going to put the amaretti in our mortar. I'm crushing the amaretti. They're very easy to crush. Now you can use a blender for this, but it's hardly worth having to watch a blender to do this. Adjust the ingredients to your needs. If you see that the filling is a little bit runny, a little bit too wet, then add another amaretto, another cookie. So don't hold yourself hostage to a recipe. Okay, here's the rest of the amaretti. We're going to take one of these fruits. Mostarda is mixed fruits in a very, very heavy syrup. These are preserved. So we're going to add part of the cheese, and if we see that it needs more, we'll add more. You know, in an Italian cookbook, you will see after an ingredient QB, which means quanto basta, as much as is enough. Of course, that means that the person reading that cookbook already knows how to cook and already knows how much is enough. So we're going to add quanto basta of this wonderful fresh Parmigiano. I'm going to add that much, and then if we need more, we'll add more. Abbondanza. With certain things, you can't help but doing abbondanza, like Parmigiano, like olive oil. Those are the base ingredients that give you the best flavor, the best texture. Okay, so now we have our filling all done. Our dough has rested. It's nice and smooth and silken, and so flour, top and bottom, and we're going to start rolling it. Look how beautifully it rolls. It's beautiful. Smells good. This is called a sfoglia. The person who makes the noodles, tira la sfoglia, is called a sfoglina. In Emilia-Romagna, most restaurants used to have a sfoglina, the person who made the noodle sheet. Okay, now we're going to use this rolling pin because it'll get it very, very much thinner. We want it fairly thin, not as thin as noodles because it has to hold the filling and we don't want them to open, but thinner than this. This is, you know, one of the most relaxing parts of making pasta. Okay, we're going to start at this end, and I'm going to use an ice cream scoop, tiny one. I think we'll start with that. So I'm going to put a little bit of water along the edge to be sure that they adhere. Right? I'm going to cover the filling, and I'm going to press the dough around the filling. I'm cutting the long end, and now I'm going to cut in between the mounds of filling. The cutting wheel makes a decorative edge, and when you cut where the dough overlaps, it really closes it. It really seals the edge, so it's very useful. Make sure that all the edges are adhered. See, I'm making sure that the edges are closed. Now, you can take these pieces and re-roll it again. What I prefer to do is to cut it into small shreds, and this will be perfect for soup. If you're making a pasta fagioli, for instance. I'm scooping the filling with an ice cream scoop right onto the dough. It makes it very easy. It makes the little tortelli all the same size, which is nice. Try to squeeze out air. That's important because if you have air sealed inside, they will break. So the way to do that is to press on either side, and then in the front, if you see a little bubble, just expel it. Doesn't belong in your tortelli. This wheel belonged to my mother. Old-fashioned, but you know, very, very good quality. I mean, this was meant to be used by several generations, and we are now on the third generation. I'm making sure that the edges are closed. This last finishing touch is very important because you don't want these to open when they go into the boiling water. So it's just worth taking the time to close them well. Since we're going to make these later, cook them later, I'm turning them, see? So both sides dry up a little bit more. I've just turned each of these so that they're dry on both sides equally. And now I'm going to cover it and refrigerate it because we're not going to cook them until tomorrow. So I'm going to make my maltagliati to put in soup. Maltagliati means badly cut. It's not that they're badly cut, but that they're uneven. It's already rolled out and it's so beautiful, why not? And this is like something for nothing. You know, you've already rolled out this beautiful dough. You cut them up and you have enough here for a nice serving of soup. We're making the butter sauce and we are melting half a stick of butter. That's 2 ounces of butter. And we are going to add fresh sage from the garden. We're going to crisp it up a little bit. When you smell the fragrance, the sauce is done. When cooking pasta, add a generous amount of salt to the water, but add it after the water comes to a boil. The reason for that is if you add the salt before, you change the chemistry of the water and it'll take longer for it to come to a boil. Add them one at a time. We're going to let them simmer for 5 minutes. We're taking them out of the boiling water with this so that we don't break any, rather than putting them in a colander, which might. As we put them in, let's add some of our sauce. Oh, it's so fragrant. There are the sage, nice and crispy. Here they are, tortelli with butter and sage. Tutti a tavola?
A mangiare.
Buon appetito!
Altrettanto.
Allora, stiamo assaggiando I tortelli. We're about to try our pumpkin tortelli. Buon appetito!
With sage butter.
Now you know how to make tortelli di zucca, so make them often. Oh, you will love them.
Do remember to subscribe.
And if you make this recipe, share it with us. Hashtag KOC, share with me.
They're delicious, they really are.